Hey, Mike.
Yeah, what's going on?
Hey, have you ever heard of turbo debt?
No, what is that? Something to get me into debt faster?
No, turbo debt is not to get you in debt faster. It's to help you get out of debt. Do you have over $10,000 in credit card, personal loans, medical, or payday loans?
Of course I have debt. That's the American way.
Au contraire, mon frere. Turbo debt will give you the option to break the debt cycle and start putting money in your pocket.
That's awesome.
Over 70% of Americans die with credit card debt. Do not let this happen to you. Turbo debt will give you an option to break the debt cycle and start putting money in your pocket.
That's awesome.
If you have over $10,000 in credit card debt and personal loans, medical or payday loans, they can help. Go to turbodebt.com/techtime. Again, that's turbodebt.com/techtime, all capitalized, for a free consultation today. TurboDebt is a proud sponsor of this week's episode of TechTime Radio.
Broadcasting across the nation from the East Coast to the West, keeping you up to date on technology while enjoying a little whiskey on the side, with leading-edge topics, along with special guests, to navigate technology in a segmented, stylized radio program. The information that will make you go, Pull up a seat, raise a glass with our hosts as we spend the next hour talking about technology for the common person. Welcome to Tech Time Radio with Nathan Mumm.
Welcome to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm, the show that makes you go, Technology News of the Week, the show for the everyday person talking about technology, broadcasting across the nation with insightful segments on subjects weeks ahead of the mainstream media. We welcome our radio audience of 35 million listeners to an hour of insightful technology news. Each week, our show covers the weekly top technology subjects without a political agenda. We verify the facts, and we do it with a sense of humor in less than 60 minutes. And of course, with a little whiskey on the side. We are live streaming during our show on 5 of the most popular platforms, including YouTube, Twitch.tv, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We encourage you to visit us online at techtimeradio.com. And you can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/techtimeradio. I'm Nathan Mumm, your host, a technologist with over 30 years of technology expertise, working for Fortune 500 companies across the country. My co-host here, Mike Roday, is an award-winning author originally from Arizona. Mike's a human behavior expert living in the Seattle area with a master's degree in forensic psychology. Mike is here to keep me from geeking out while providing insightful insights into human behavior and how it interacts with technology.
Insightful insights.
We are two friends from different backgrounds, but bringing the best technology show possible every week for our family, friends, and fans to enjoy. Welcome, everyone. Let's start July 4th episode right now.
Now on today's show.
Today on Tech Time with Nathan Mumm, the White House announces $42 billion in expanded broadband services across the U.S. to bring high-speed internet to every state and territory. We're going to be talking about that. The social app IRL is shutting down like an 80s comedy movie, and LastPass users are furious again. Our guest, Nick Espinosa from Security Fanatics, is joining us for, of course, our 4th of July special. We can't do a holiday show without Nick.
Why do we always do holiday shows with
Nick?
Nothing but CyberCrime?
Well, you know what? Because Nick is our hero.
Well, I know Nick is our hero, but we always do our. It seems like every holiday is all about all the bad stuff that happens.
Well, you know what?
That causes us to drink on the show.
That's exactly correct. Okay. All right. We have our guest, Nick from Security Fanatics. He's joining us now. I know he's joining us remotely because he's been speaking at a whole bunch of items this upcoming weeks. And he's probably, I'm sure, on his 4th of July vacation. But he said he would still join us coming on into our show. So we thank him. And we're going to look back at the Sony Walkman and the success of that. And I have a secret to share with you during the Nathan Nugget. And I'm not
secrets from you is a good thing.
It's a secret, and it's not a rant as their last show.
Are you sure?
Yes, I've been. Mark went off on me in the last show
about the health benefits of whiskey.
No, it's not about any of that. So it'll be much better. All right, you will not want to miss this special 4th of July Save Your Fingers event. All right. Now, in addition, we're looking to have Mike's mesmerizing moment, a technology fail, and a possible Nathan Nugget. As always, we have our pick of the day whiskey tasting during the commercial to see if our selected whiskey pick gets 0, 1, or 2 thumbs up at the end of the show. And we have Mark back in the studio. He's joining us on the 4th of July. He's going to join us here. And then I think all of us are going to head over to the Mumm property, and we're going to enjoy a little 4th of July celebration. And we got to be careful with our fingers. That's the only thing I'll say. Don't blow off your fingers. All right, so sit back.
Okay, what?
Well, we light off fireworks, right?
What's the deal with your fingers, man?
Well, okay. So we're pretty aggressive with our.
Are you planning on something this year? Because that's
last year we were safe, right?
That doesn't count. You've mentioned your fingers like 3 or 4 times, so I'm thinking you got something in store that's bothering.
Well, maybe we got some high.
It's called a Freudian slip. By the way.
We have some high explosive items that will be at this year's.
4th of July. Can't wait.
All right, now it's time for the latest headlines in the world of technology.
Here are our top technology stories of the week.
All right, story number 1: White House announces $42 billion to expand broadband across the United States. This is a big story here. This is essentially what Joe Biden said that he was going to do. We talked about this about a year ago, and so now he's going to actually get into it. We're going to go to News Nation and Tom Dempsey for more information about what this says and what this is about.
President Biden will announce billions of dollars in new funding for high-speed internet access.
And this will kick off a 3-week campaign sending the president and administration officials to 20 states to highlight economic bills that are the cornerstone of his reelection run. Tom Dempsey has more for us from Washington. Hi, Tom.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, President Joe Biden hopes to pick up some momentum for his reelection campaign by announcing $40 billion to boost high-speed internet access in areas of the country that really need it.
Today, we're taking another big step toward Internet for All. We're announcing over $40 billion to be distributed to 50 states, Washington, D.C., and territories to deliver high-speed internet in places where there's neither service or it's too slow. And folks, and that includes rural communities like Appalachia. The funding for each state and territory is based on their specific needs. How many of the residents currently lack internet access and what it will cost to provide that access. With this funding, along with other federal investments, we're going to be able to connect every person in America to reliable, high-speed internet by 2030.
The big infrastructure bill passed by Congress months ago included efforts to expand internet access. Guys?
Yeah, Tom, thank you very much.
All right. So internet was once a privilege. You remember back in the day? I mean, we do, right? I mean, you had to pay for internet when you had dial-up, right? And so that was kind of
paying for internet. I still pay for internet.
You still pay for internet. So now
you pay for internet.
I do. I pay for I pay for internet on both a radio area and a home internet area, and for rentals. Yeah, so I pay a lot of internet. Comcast and me and the bill system is pretty big, taken care of. How do you feel about internet now becoming a privilege for all Americans?
It's becoming a privilege. It already was a privilege.
Well, now with this bill essentially is allowing everybody to have high speed.
Okay, so the tech nerd in me says that's awesome that it's now a necessity.
Okay.
But the human person is like, that's unfortunate that it has to become a necessity.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But now are we going to have utility companies that are taking over the internet? Is that how that's going to work?
Well, the funding has been promised.
Really sucky.
Yeah, so it's been promised at $1.2 trillion for the Infrastructure Act that would be allocated to state and territories. This is really kind of a big thing, too, I noticed.
So this is part of the infrastructure.
This is part of the Infrastructure Act of the $1.2 trillion that were already passed. So this is a subset of within that money that's been allocated. Interesting that it's states and territories, because I don't know if any time I've ever seen so many disclaimers that saying that it's going to territories also. So normally it's just the United States. You kind of leave that in there. As a part of the Biden's administration goal to connect everyone in the U.S. to reliable, affordable, high-speed internet by the end of the decade, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, known as the BEAD, B-E-A-D, BEAD program, or BEAD, the BEAD program, will allocate the $4.2 billion in different amounts to each state, territories, and Washington, D.C. At a minimum, territories will get $27 million and states $107 million, up to a maximum of $3.3 billion. Put simply, high-speed internet is necessary in today's society for remote health care for all Americans. So Joe Biden kind of went off on this, saying that since we have remote health care that's been available, really kind of at its forefront during COVID, right? So it came on up there, that this should be available for everybody to be able to have a live meeting and stream with a teledoctor, to be able to get their health needed wherever they're at in the United States. The funding connects homes and businesses, comes from the $1.2 trillion Infrastructure Act signed last November. The BEAD program represents $4.2 billion promised at its signing of deployment broadband in areas with high-speed internet. In areas where broadband is already available in additional items, the high-speed internet is affordable now for low-income people at a payment rate of $30 a month. So essentially, if you're in low-income areas, you'll be able to receive high-speed internet for $30 a month. Now, so in this plan, does that really allow people to have it at the $30 a month, or are you going to need to subsidize it even more for people to get high-speed internet?
I don't know.
I actually think the $30 a month I have a problem with.
I think, well, there are programs that allow people to get internet services for $10 a month. So
$30 is a little bit more expensive.
If it's government, if it's high-speed internet. The internet that is available now is not high-speed internet.
Okay.
And so, we're probably going to see an increase in every other internet too. So, so
high speed is going to be low speed.
High speed is going to be low speed, and the people who are paying more money for internet are going to demand higher speeds, and we already know that it exists already out there. So the cable companies and internet companies are going to jump on that and start charging premium prices for higher speed internet.
Well, what's interesting is that $2.75 billion are essentially being redlined to keep ISPs servicing low-income areas for fast internet. So essentially ISPs, these ISP companies, don't service large populated areas now. They don't go on in and take care of the service. Essentially, they become at the end of a waiting list right now. So they have to allocate money to enable the ISPs to get out there and ensure that people can get fast internet. It's also interesting that $2 billion go for indigenous governments and the organization of $2 billion in grants and loans to build internet infrastructure in rural areas. So I'm excited about this. I do think Joe Biden has been probably the most active president we've ever had regarding internet security, different aspects that we have. All the rest of the presidents
is this really the Joe Biden administration, or is it just because the Joe Biden administration happened right after a global pandemic that has forced us to
Well, this is what he ran on, right? So this was like his political platform was.
Well, I know
he said that he'd give everybody internet access. So I guess at least came through on it. Some other president promised to build a wall, and that never quite got finished.
I don't really know that that's a proactive statement, though.
Okay, that's fair. All right. Well, I am interested to see how this plays out. I hope that the money just doesn't go to these large ISP companies already, and then they just don't suck it in.
They're gonna find ways of capitalizing on it. We all know that.
I hope not. I hope that everybody does get the access to the internet. I don't know if they all need to be streaming Netflix necessarily as a American right, but I guess
what?
Well, I don't.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Did you just say that?
I don't think everybody needs to be streaming media stuff as a right, but I do want them to have high speed access.
But if they are you?
What? I just don't get.
Your stance here is that yes, they should have high speed internet, but they shouldn't have it a high enough speed that they can stream internet.
I just don't think we should
Netflix.
Well, I don't know. Is Netflix is that something that you pay for, and is that a special?
That's a service.
Is right? a special privilege to get that? You pay for that.
Everything that we do here in America is a privilege.
Which is interesting. As I went down to my local library,
we don't have anything that's not a privilege. It's a privilege to buy food.
That's true. I went down to my local library just a couple weeks back, and I did a DSL speed test just to see the speed that it was. And it was a gig internet that was available in the local library, and there's nobody on these computers at all. I was like, what the heck? I mean, that you could literally have gamers come and crash in the public library system and literally get probably better speeds than they're doing at home. Okay, all right. Well, Mike, I think you have story number 2.
Yeah, we're gonna pull back from the Earth globe here and talk about space stuff.
Oh, we like space stuff.
Astronomers have discovered an asteroid that orbits the sun with Earth, earning it the moniker a quasi-moon. Recently discovered asteroid 2023 FW13 has created a bit of a stir among asteroid watchers. It turns out to be on an orbit that is not only in a one-to-one resonance with the Earth, but follows a path that actually circles it, albeit on an orbit that is so eccentric that it sweeps out halfway to Mars and halfway into Venus.
Okay, so explain that to me. So I guess so we're on like one side of the sun, and it's on the exact same opposite side of the sun.
I don't know.
I believe that's what they're
I
saying.
think that's what it is, but it.
So is that like a multiverse?
No. This
Are
is.
you sure?
Yeah.
Because that could be like another Earth that's just have different time.
You're. This is an asteroid. This is not an Earth body.
Okay.
Okay. This is not an Earth-sized planetoid that's floating around out there with your Marvel Star Trek guys on it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
There's no formal definition for objects like this, which are sometimes called quasi-moons or quasi-satellites. Okay, that means they're large enough to qualify as something, but not big enough to be considered a full moon.
Okay,
which is like our moon.
I get you.
Okay, they follow a path around the Earth, but usually no more than a few decades. Perhaps the best known of these objects, known as 469219, Kamo Owalawea.
Oh,
I don't know if that's correct.
Okay, I'm sure.
It was found in 2016 and is considered the smallest, closest, and most stable known quasi-satellites. It has an orbit that has been in a stable resonance with Earth for almost a century and will remain so for centuries to come.
Okay.
This asteroid was first observed on March 28th by the Pan-STARRS Observatory atop a mountain in Maui. After further observations from the Canada-France-Hawaii telescope on Mauna Kea and from observatories on Kitt Peak and Mount Lemmon in Arizona, the discovery was officially announced on April 1st. When I saw the announcement, the very Earth-like semi-major axis looked suspicious to me, says Adrien Coffinet, a French astronomer. I'm pretty sure I said his name wrong.
Okay.
Coffinet was the first to identify the nature of the quasi-moon's orbit after running its orbital parameters through a simulator that extrapolates into the past and future. The asteroid is actually orbiting the sun and is not gravitationally bound to Earth. However, it's in resonance with our planet, which is why the path loops widely around Earth. So it sort of mimics the Earth's rotation around the sun.
Gotcha. All right, that's great. All right, story number 3.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right, social app IRL is shutting down, and this story is written like an 80s comedy movie. Now, the only thing I think of is Opportunity Knocks. Have you ever seen that with Dana Carvey?
That's really old.
That's an 80s movie. So this is an 80s movie. This is the same exact story. So essentially, Dana Carvey plays a con artist, and he breaks into this place. And so Opportunity Knocks, great 80s movie. All 80s
That's
type of deal.
really old.
There's a love story in there.
Okay.
Now, essentially, we got information. This is so funny. You're going to love this. We got information from our Tech Time reporter, Jason Twill. We're going to go to it right now and listen a little bit about the IRL social media app.
CEO of messaging app IRL repeatedly said it had 20 million monthly active users who chatted about shared interests. A spokesperson for the startup said an investigation by the board of directors concluded 95% of those users were automated or from bots. As a result of the probe, the spokesperson said the company would shut down and return capital to shareholders 2 months after it suspended the founder and CEO, Abraham Shafi, for alleged misconduct, coming under scrutiny in a series of articles in The Information, which questioned its user number claims.
All right, so let me just tell you, Abraham Shafi.
Mm-hmm.
His nickname should be Mr. Shafty. That's what I'm just going to call him.
Are you,
Mr. Shafty?
Well, you're on it today.
Yeah, this is what we got. Okay, so the social media app IRL is known
in real life.
Yeah, it's known as in real life. Is shutting down after discovering something was off about its 20 million users. An international investigation by the company's board of directors found that more than 95% of the accounts on the 6-year-old company were automated or from bots. Again, okay, you have 20 million users,
20 million bots.
95% of your users are fake. The app now targeted Gen Z for all about real life experiences, and IRL said younger users were flooding to its app, but it was mostly make believe. The app started off as a tool to discover real world events. The COVID-19 pandemic couldn't have run it into the ground more, but instead IRL quickly pivoted to prioritize the discovery of online events like live streamed concert, esports events, Zoom parties, and more. A message posted on the company's website confirmed the app would stop working on January 27th. And a brief timeline of IRL's unraveling. In 2017, IRL was launched by Abraham Shafty and an early PayPal board member, Scott Bannister. In June of 2021, IRL's valuation passes the $1 billion mark. This company was worth $1 billion, pushing it to be coveted unicorn club with over $107 million in a Series C funding round led by Japanese investing giant SoftBank's Vision Fund 2. It claims to have over 12 million users a part of that funding group. IRL makes its first acquisition in December of 2021. It actually purchases a digital startup company called AEBEZE Labs, who have tech tools to promote healthier social media practices. In May of 2022, employees began to express doubt about the 20 million user figure. In June of 2022, the social app cuts 25% of its staff. But Shafty, in a company-wide memo, says that the IRL has more than enough cash to last well into 2024. All right, December 2022, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission opens an investigation into IRL, probing its misled investors. A special committee of the IRL's board of directors suspended Shafty for his partners of misconduct and have him step down from the board. In 2023, IRL employees are notified about the impending shutdown as the company was a fake.
Okay, all right. So this has the Ashley Madison thing going on. They've got all these
fake bots
talking on it.
Yep,
and saying stuff in real life.
95% of this.
95% of this company is.
This guy got $1 billion evaluation for his company. How the heck can you pull? That is like that's like highway crime.
Sure,
forget con artists.
Why? I don't even know why you even act surprised that this even happens.
Somebody has to do a due diligence on this. Come on, somebody says they have these people.
So many people doing so many things. You can't do due diligence on everything.
Okay,
that's how these things fall through the cracks.
Okay,
and it's so easy to fool everybody. Look how easy that this has been going on for 6 years.
I know the Japanese mob will take care of them. So there you go. Well, that ends our top technology stories of the week. Moving on, we have a major disruption going on in our cyber attacks. We're going to explore this in our next segment. Ask the Expert with Nick Espinosa from Security Fanatics. Nick is back by popular demand, and like always, he's on a holiday show. We'll be back after these commercial breaks. Hello, listeners. We're excited here at TechTime Radio, aren't we, Mike?
Oh, no.
We have an announcement to make starting in June. We're really excited to be a part of an internet radio station. That's right. Coming up in June, you will still be able to listen to us live here at Kixie 880 and KKNW and all of our affiliate stations, but you'll be able to listen to us at 8 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday now. We look forward to this new opportunity to provide you TechTime Radio every weekday. And again, you can always catch us online at techtimeradio.com. Welcome back to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm. Tech Time is a weekly technology show that talks about current technology in a simple format without having to geek out. Brought to you by myself, Nathan Mumm, and Mike Roday. We just had our first whiskey tasting. We have Mark Gregoire in the studios today, and he's going to be telling us about what we are sipping in our pick of the day. Today on the show, Mark, what have we chosen?
Well, before we get to that, Nathan, I would like to say I love your 4th of July hat.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Someone else.
And, it lights up and everything.
I know.
Why are you kissing his butt?
Well, I wanted to know if it was too tight on his head because he's getting some facts wrong again.
Oh, no. Well, what fact did I get wrong?
Well, no.
Opportunity Knocks was released March 30th, 1990.
Oh, it's not an 80s movie.
No, it is not. Technically, it is not.
Okay. I guess. Okay.
I'm in the studio again.
Have you seen that movie?
I have not.
Okay, well, until you got to see it. It's a comedy love story. Dana Carvey is hilarious.
Yeah, I remember when it came out. That's one that it's like 1 on Rotten Tomatoes.
No.
We know that it's not the hat because he does this all the time.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we are sipping on today.
Get rid of it. That's not going to help.
You made me feel bad. I'm going to now take it.
That's not going to help.
That's all right.
Oh, put it back on.
Wow. All right, just tell us what we're tasting about here, Mark. What are we tasting?
This week, on the 4th of July, we are drinking Willet Pot Still Reserve Bourbon. It's from the Willet Distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. Straight bourbon. We don't know the age. We don't know the mash bill, but we do know it's only 94 proof. So I brought you a low proof one since there'll be lots of drinking later today.
That's right. At the party afterwards.
And $60 for this bottle. I do have a little bit more to talk about that price again this week, as I did last week.
Okay.
But we'll save that for the mumbles. The tasting notes this week are courtesy of Bill Thomas. He's from Jack Rose Dining Saloon.
Okay.
And he says about this, nose is vanilla lemon cake. The palate is a balance of caramel, vanilla, spices, and citrus. I'm not sure if they made the opulent bottle to match the whiskey or vice versa.
This was a weird bottle. When it poured, it sounded...
you heard the glug, glug, glug.
Yeah,
glug, glug.
it did that.
It's I Dream of Jeannie whiskey.
I will tell you... Oh, that's a good one.
There you go.
I'll tell you all about the bottle during the mumbles.
Okay, great. All right.
All right. Well, thank you,
So
gentlemen.
far, I'm liking the whiskey. What'd you think of it?
I'm liking it so far.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit more mellow, a little bit less punch, a little bit more subtle this week than last week.
It is. All right. Well, our first whiskey
All right.
tasting is complete. Now let's move on to our feature segment with our technology expert, Nick Espinosa, joining the show. I'm sure for his 4th of July weekend, he is enjoying it with his family. He's probably remote, but we are excited to have our cybersecurity and network infrastructure expert, Nick, on. Now, Nick is an expert regarding Fortune 100 level companies regarding cybersecurity. At the age of 19, he founded Windy City Networks, later acquired in 2015, and he has then created Security Fanatics, where he's the chief security fanatic. Let's welcome Nick to our video stream segment and start this episode.
Welcome to the segment we call Ask the Experts, with our TechTime Radio expert, Nick Espinosa.
Wow, Nick, thank you for joining us on our 4th of July event. You know, it's always a great time having you. Anytime we do a holiday event, it's a Nick Espinosa show.
There you go. There you go. And, you know, it's funny. I actually did like a video podcast a few days ago on IRL, and I could not decide if they were Ashley Madison, where you had like 300 million horny guys talking to 6 women and 2 million bots, or if they were Theranos, basically fake it till you make it until it all implodes on you like a dying star. So I wasn't sure which it was, but either way, oh my God. Again, how do these companies get $1 billion plus and just totally rip everybody off? I don't get that at all.
So let me just tell you, the guy's name, poor Shaffy. That was his name, dude. So when you're doing your presentation,
He just made off to everybody,
dude. You don't you think? I mean, isn't there any type of rhyme or reason that you're like, maybe this is not what it seems to be taken care of? I don't know. I cannot believe how they get money.
We as humans are easily distractible. This happens a lot more than we want it to. It's just part of life.
$1 billion though, invested in fake bots, man. I you know what?
Crazy.
I'm gonna create something new, and I'll just. And then what happens to him? So
why are you
the
outing
board
yourself?
Well, the board removes him. He probably spent the money like a sieve, right? He probably was party here, party there, and everything.
Yeah.
And then what's the repercussions? Oops, sorry guys, I didn't have as many bots.
The SEC, the SEC will make sure he's in SEC jail, whatever that means.
Yes.
Or like, in other words, they can prevent him from like forming another company or sitting on a board.
That makes sense.
So that's probably what's going to happen here. But yeah, a lot of people lost their shirts. But if you look at like Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, and you see those interviews, I mean, she's on it. You would never know unless you knew. You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway.
All right, Nick. So explain to us here. We got some information going on with 45,000 students from Move It, the transfer server. The New York Police Department of Education was brought in, and essentially it says the hackers stole the New York City Department of Education and Police. Both of them were brought in, and essentially the hackers stole documents containing sensitive information and documents internally and externally from various vendors, including special education services providers. This is a big deal in the cybersecurity news right now. Explain why this is so important and what happened on the Move It transfer server.
Yeah. So happy 4th of July, everybody. Yep. Here I am, Debbie Downer.
I don't know. All of our holiday episodes are Debbie Downer episodes.
No, they're not. They're just very educational.
They are whiskey heavy episodes every time.
Like I say, I'm fun at parties. Just don't ask me about my job. But here we go. So, so Move It, literally, that's how you spell it. Move It, one word, was essentially a file transfer product run by an outfit called Ipswitch, which is owned by a company called Progress. And essentially, every IT person on the planet was using this apparently in their business to move large chunks of data everywhere else. The New York City school system was no different. And so the Department of Education essentially was moving large amounts of data using this platform, Move It, to various vendors and various service providers for, whatever they were servicing the New York public school system for. And by virtue of that, this massive critical vulnerability propped up in there that made essentially it easy enough for me to teach a third grade class how to break in to MOVEit systems, and therefore you could steal data and do other things, and that's exactly what happened. And unfortunately, as we were looking at all of the breaches that have happened thus far, the New York school system, while it is critical because obviously there's children involved in this, is actually from a record size pretty small compared to the others, which is insane because we're talking about tens of thousands of records here as well. So there you go.
All right. So how many total documents were accessed without authorization? What's the number we're looking at with this breach?
Right. So basically, the estimate is that there are a total of 45,000 documents were caught up in this, but roughly 19,000 or so were actually accessed, by people that were not authorized to see this information. We're talking about things like Social Security numbers, employee ID numbers, all that kind of stuff, and approximately 9,000 Social Security numbers out of that 19,000. Obviously, all of the law enforcement got brought in. New York City has its own cybercrime task force, the FBI. I mean, you name the alphabet soup, they're all looking at this one for obvious reasons because it's a government entity. But yeah, so we're looking at about 19,000 different documents in total that were probably accessed potentially by threat actors due to this huge vulnerability.
All right, so there's a lot of breaches that are happening. Is this a specific ransomware gang that did this breach, or is this a known group? Because we used to have Revil, right? Revil was kind of the leader, and they were the big boys on the block. Is this the same type of group, or is there a new group rising to power in these cybersecurity breaches?
Yeah, well, so the one that's taking a lot of responsibility for a lot of these breaches, although they are, for the record, not the only ones doing this, is the Clop ransomware gang. They've been around for a while now. There are newer gangs out there on the market, like Play, for example, Black Cat, et cetera, et cetera. But Clop is essentially, for lack of a better term, a very polished organization. And so by virtue of that, they have been taking responsibilities, and they basically went on a spree hitting a ton of companies out there that had MOVEit, copying out data, holding them for ransom, et cetera, et cetera. So Clop out of Eastern Europe, we suspect Russia is essentially behind this, and they're trying to make a lot of money on everybody using this product.
All right. So when did this data go public? Essentially, we had the data theft come in June, and essentially Clop's dark website posted this data. How did the data get posted? What the data is available for purchase? Does this victims disclosed by the breach, are they posted out there with names from MOVEit? What happened to this data on the dark web that's available for purchase?
Yeah. So essentially, Clop, the way they work is, and it's like most ransomware gangs, they have a leak site in the dark web. I actually went to their website in the dark web, and they have specific notices for specific organizations that have been hit as a result of Clop, as a result of MOVEit. For the record, basically saying, okay, here's the timeline for you to essentially pay us to not put out any of this data, and that's essentially their goal. So in other words, if you're one of their victims, they're basically saying, hey, you've got a week or two to essentially pay us, and we will not expose your data to the rest of the world. Otherwise, we'll either sell it or we'll dump it out there. And so the clock has been ticking on something like over 100 companies around the world right now, a good chunk of those sitting under, the Clop name. And some of these companies are absolutely like well known around the globe. So it's kind of nuts, what we're seeing right now on their website.
All right. So let's talk about the deletion of electronic records, right? So this was an interesting story that hit the wire. We essentially have JP Morgan to pay SEC fines. The SEC has fined JP Morgan Chase and Company $4 million in essentially an allegation of deleting 47 million electronic records. Now, that's a huge amount of records that were deleted. Explain a little bit what happened with JP Morgan Chase regarding this fine.
Well, the interesting part about this one is I think everybody's going to be putting on their conspiracy theory tinfoil hats as to why one of the largest banks in the entire world mysteriously lost a whole bunch of email. But here's essentially officially what they told the SEC. JP Morgan is basically saying that those 47 million emails belong to their retail banking group, and those were mistakenly but permanently deleted, which is actually a surprise to me. Now, those emails were basically for about 4 months or so, through about 4 or 5 months of 2018, and they were deleted apparently in June of 2019. So this is just coming to light out of about 8,700 mailboxes for their employees. And that basically includes about 7,500 employees or so that actually work with customers directly, meaning if I'm using JP Morgan for all my banking needs or whatever, I'm emailing, let's say, my rep there back and forth back in 2018 from January through April. Those are basically gone. And now this deletion, interestingly enough, occurred after JP Morgan, and this is what they're blaming. They're basically saying their compliance technology department had been trying to get rid of these documents and delete communications that were no longer needed to be legally held for compliance from like the 1970s and 1980s. And so they brought in a third-party outside vendor. And according to the cease and desist order from the SEC, the vendor apparently failed to properly apply policies to retention and essentially just wiped them out. Gone, adios. And that obviously is a huge problem. The reason why the SEC has retention policies, usually like 3 years plus, most stuff is 7 years, is because they're looking for basically patterns of malfeasance through the data. In other words, like if you're ripping off JP Morgan because you're a person there that can do that, an employee, you're going to see over time like patterns of shifting money and all that kind of stuff, communications, etc. And so that's why we have legal holds on this. If somebody, is suspected of ripping off JP Morgan, this is exactly the evidence and data that the regulators are going to want to sift through. And now it's gone. So there you go.
Well, this has to be, of course, the first time JP Morgan has failed to retain essential business communications, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. They have a sterling record of paying literally massive fines for this exact thing over the years.
That's a set of questions.
No kidding.
Yeah. Let's rewind about a year and a half. And in late 2021, the SEC announced that JP Morgan had agreed to pay $125 million to settle claims of what they say, and I quote, widespread and longstanding failures by the firm and its employees to maintain and preserve written communications, end quote, over just multiple years. And on the exact same day, their Commodity Futures and Trading Commission, that is the federal government, basically levied another $75 million fine against JP Morgan Securities, along with 2 other JP Morgan Chase entities for basically doing the same damn thing. And essentially what we ended up with that single day was $200 million of fines for this. So that $4 million, I'm pretty sure their CEO will root around, his couch cushions and just change and pay that. But yes, there is a history here, not to mention a massive breach that cost them $75 million back in like 2014, 2015, and all of this kind of stuff. And to be fair, when you've got a huge company with this many employees, there's a lot of moving parts, but this is why we have compliance law. Everybody's got to get trained and everybody's liable, and here we are.
And they were all using in real life to talk to each other.
That's right. Do you bank with? Do you bank with? You know what? That's very horrible. Is that I do have a Chase account. I don't only have one, but I have 2 accounts.
That does
for this bank that just gets.
Well, given the way this economy is going, most of my investments are now canned goods and shotguns, so you can figure that out.
All right. Last thing we want to get into here. Well, you got a question, Mark?
Well, no.
What's that?
In shotgun whiskey, buddy. Whiskey.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Everybody needs whiskey.
All right. Okay. Now let's talk about the Russian coup a couple weeks ago, right? So, as we're sitting back enjoying our 4th of July, what happened on the cyber front regarding the Russian coup?
Yeah, so this one, I mean, just as somebody that's been involved somewhat in this conflict, has been absolutely insane and wild to watch. I mean, literally that weekend, the world was on edge as the Wagner Group's leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, basically just started marching his troops and said, you know what, we're done. And the Russians, the Russian military missile strike the Wagner bases. And so he marched all the way to about 200 kilometers within Moscow, everybody thinking this guy's about to overthrow Putin. And here we are. And so while he was tearing up the Russian countryside, the Russian military and their government was actually scrambling to change the narrative and also get ready for a possible siege. We saw a whole bunch of citizen journalists basically giving us videos of sandbags and machine guns going all over Moscow, heavy armor, etc. But interestingly enough, we heard initial reports that Prigozhin had actually hacked into Russian state television to deliver his message of rebellion or coup or whatever you want to call it, although he didn't call it a coup. And we were getting reports for hours that Russian disinformation units were spinning absolute ton of just fake news and disinformation all across the region, in an attempt to basically slow this down and confuse people and assure the people that the Russian government was in charge, which quite frankly, we're not sure they were. So things like, Prigozhin was assassinated, or Wagner troops were giving up, or even the Chechens were going to come on in and all this enter the fray. And depending on who you were listening to, the Chechens were supporting Putin or they were supporting Prigozhin. We heard that Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko fled the country on his airplane, and suddenly he's back in Belarus brokering a deal. And so it was absolutely nuts, and it was absolutely fascinating just to watch. It was total chaos, but it was really telling, just how fast they were trying to squash, all of this news that was leaking out left and right, that literally the Russian government may simply fall due to, like 10,000 essentially mercenaries in their country. And on top of it, what's interesting too is that Prigozhin actually was the one that ran the Internet Research Agency, if you remember them from the 2016 election, spinning disinformation, which he publicly admitted last year in 2022 at a conference. Yeah, we totally meddled with the elections and we'll do it again. So this guy is a master at disinformation, and just simply went off the grid, brokered a deal. And I still, to this day, can't figure out exactly what his end game was, but apparently it wasn't toppling the government. And here we are. It was just a wild, interesting time from a disinformation warfare standpoint.
This sounds like a movie.
It's, you know what? This is going to be a movie.
This is going to be a movie.
It's going to be Tom Clancy. Netflix will do it. This is Tom Clancy.
That's Tom Clancy stuff. Yeah.
This is Tom Clancy. It really is.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for being a part of our 4th of July show.
Nate.
I said Nick.
No,
Nick.
You said Nate.
I said Nate. All right, Nick. I've
been called worse either way. So
okay, Nick, we want to thank you for being a part of our 4th of July show. How can people get in touch with you and listen to your weekly updates?
You can like, share, follow me at Nick A ESP on Facebook and Twitter. You can subscribe to me at YouTube at Nick Espinosa. And like I said, daily podcast, daily videos, and just come hang out and we'll riff. All good.
Funny tech commercials. I don't understand a lot of commercials and advertising funniness in tech, but Nick posts probably the best stuff on Twitter. So make sure you subscribe to his Twitter feed so you can get his little pictures that he talks about tech stuff. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick,
for being a part of our show on our 4th of July episode, Nick.
Take it easy, guys. Happy 4th.
All right. Bye-bye. That ends our segment, Ask the Expert with Nick Espinosa. Up next, we have This Week in Technology. So now would be a great time to enjoy a little whiskey on the side, as we are going to be doing so during the break. You're listening to TechTime Radio with Nathan Mumm. See you in a few minutes.
This is Mark.
And Greg.
For Copiers Northwest.
With a terrific offer.
Called Printer Care Plus.
It's simple. Buy HP printer cartridges from Copiers Northwest and we'll service your current printers for free.
That sounds too good to be true.
Sounds like a love-love relationship for IT departments.
Don't get too carried away. So how do they get more details on Printer Care Plus?
Call Copiers Northwest today, 206-282-1200, or visit copiersnw.com.
Copiers Northwest. New ideas, new solutions.
And now, let's look back at this week in technology.
All right, looking back into This Week in Technology, we got July 1st, 1979. The first Sony Walkman, the TPS L2, goes on sale in Japan. We go on sale in the U.S. about a year later, but allowing owners to carry their personal music with them was a hit. The Walkman and its iconic headphones introduced a revolution of listening habits and popular culture at large. The metal-cased blue and silver Walkman, the world's first low-cost personal stereo, was sold for around 33,000 yen, or $150. Sony predicted it would sell about 5,000 units a month. It sold more than 30,000 in the first 2 months, and over 100 million Walkmans have been sold before the invention of the portable CD players. Used in countless 80s movies, maybe 90s too, includes one of our favorites, Back to the Future, and the 2014 opening scene of Guardians of the Galaxy. That was This Week in Technology. If you ever wanted to watch some Tech Time history with over 2 years of video podcasts and blog information, you can visit TechTime Radio to watch our older shows or join the Tech Timers Facebook group to talk with us live all the time. We're going to take a commercial break here. When we return, we have our Mark's Mumble Whiskey Review with Mr. Greg Waugh in studio and our Technology Fail of the Week. See you after the break.
Hello, my name is Arthur, and my life's work is connecting people with coffee. Story Coffee is a small batch specialty coffee company that uses technology to connect people to each product resource, which allows farmers to unlock their economic freedom. Try our Medium Roast Founder Series coffee, which is an exotic bourbon variety that is smooth, fresh, and elegant at storycoffee.com. That's STORI coffee.com. Today you can get your first bag free when you subscribe at storycoffee.com with code TechTime. That's STORI coffee.com.
The segment we've been waiting all week for. Mark's Whiskey Mumble.
You like that music, don't you?
Well, I was hoping there's some fireworks were going to go off.
Oh, okay.
That,
But you were doing the sound effects for the fireworks.
Yes, I was trying.
Congratulations.
It sounded like you were coughing.
Yeah. All right.
Well, what are we celebrating today?
Alcohol.
Could it be Independence Day?
Oh, the Independence Day.
That's
right.
too obvious.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what day is it then?
Well, besides the famous Mumm family 4th of July party, you
All
mean?
right. Yeah, absolutely. After the show.
All right. It's National Hillbilly Day.
What the heck?
I'm speechless.
This day recognizes hillbilly culture and celebrates the tradition and lifestyles of those that reside in rural areas of the southern United States.
Well, now I'll be able to get internet, though.
Yeah. Hillbillies have a reputation for living a very different life than those who live in urban and suburban areas.
Yes, they do.
Now, I personally am not celebrating that type of hillbilly day. I am celebrating the Beverly Hillbillies because I love that show.
Well, that was a good show.
It was a good show.
It was. The original or the reboot?
The original.
The reboot wasn't that bad either.
I have not seen the reboot.
Oh, really? It had the guy that was like, Vern, whatever his name was. That the guy, he was pretty funny. I forget his name now.
Yeah, move on.
Okay.
All right. So to celebrate National Hillbilly Day, we have a whiskey from Kentucky.
Okay.
So Willet Pot Still Reserve. Reputation stems primarily from its attention-grabbing bottle design. It's a unique glass decanter reminiscent of a copper pot still.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, the bourbon is believed to originate from a column still, which is the most popular type used to make bourbon, not in a pot still. Though Scotland and Ireland sometimes still use a pot still, American distillers have moved to the column still for reasons of volume and profits, of course.
All right. Well, now hang on. I got to help you.
Right.
For your hillbillies, it was Jim Varney, is who I was talking about. And he was also in Ernest Goes to Camp. Ernest Saves Christmas. So I just want to make sure.
He was in Toy Story too.
He was at Slinky the dog. You're correct. Yep. Okay. I just want to make sure I had my hillbilly correct. Okay.
Well, I thank you for fact checking.
Okay.
So we don't have to run that scroll at the end of the show with all the corrections.
Maybe you should have some more whiskey.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you.
So just like last week, my thumbs up or down come down to price. So for this week, in this bottle, I paid $60 when I bought it.
Okay.
Now, since then, for that, it's a thumbs up.
Okay.
Now, since then, the current price has gone up in our local chain liquor store that also sells wine.
Yeah, wine some more.
It's currently $95.
What?
Is that too much for a thumbs up?
I would pass on that. So many reviewers of whiskey exclude price, kind of like this thumbs up, thumbs down show.
I think price is important, though.
But I do too, and I'm not one of those people.
We're here to talk about taste, though. We don't talk about price here.
I have limited funds, so the final choice of whether it gets on my shelf space on my bar, I have to put price as a factor.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's very fair.
So for the $60, it's a beautiful bottle. It's been on my shelf for about a year. I love it.
$90,
but coming up to 100. That's before tax. That'd be about 120 here in Washington.
Yeah,
that's too much for a 94 proof unaged stated bourbon.
I agree with you. That's maybe the first time I've agreed with Mark on his mumble.
You're just kissing.
You've had a lot of whiskey, so thank you. Finally, the brain maybe that is true. Maybe you do think better.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Week.
Yeah,
all right.
Okay.
Whiskey and
the
technology.
Health benefits of whiskey has affected you correctly.
That's right. It's a great pairing. Just like the pairing of Sonny and Cher.
Oh, no.
Right, Mike?
Can you stop?
That ended in divorce.
Well, hang on. But they had some great songs that were phenomenal when they were together.
I got you, babe.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now let's get ready for our technology fail of the week. Brought to you by Elite Executive Services.
We are out of time. Congratulations. You're a failure. Oh, I failed. Did I?
Yes.
Did I?
Yes.
Did I?
Yes.
All right, this week's technology fail comes to us from LastPass again. Man, this company is going to go out of business. They just cannot figure stuff out.
What happened?
All right, LastPass is a mobile and computer-based password manager system. Now, I want to explain this for any of our listeners.
This used to be your favorite.
Yeah. So this is the application that you download. This allows you to store your passwords in the application to retrieve after you log in with one master password. So they have a Chrome plugin. You can do this on your mobile phone, but LastPass is a password management application that you download.
Right.
Now, LastPass users are furious after being locked out due to multi-factor authentication resets. Now, multi-factor authentication is when you kind of ask for your phone to say, type in a number here, or kind of like when you get texts and say, please type in this number. Multi-factor authentication had some problems with the LastPass managers as users have begun experiencing significant login issues starting early May after being prompted to reset their authentication app logins. Numerous users have been locked out of their accounts and unable to access the LastPass vault, which is essentially all of your passwords. So if you use this system and you have all of your passwords in there, probably not being able to access the vault would be very troublesome to you. Compounding the problem, affected users cannot seek assistance from support since reaching out to LastPass support requires you to log into their account, which you cannot do because you're locked out using an infinity loop of promoting your multi-factor authentication issue.
Wow.
So here's the issue. You can't log into the app. You can use the app to get technical support. So essentially you are locked out.
Yep.
There is nothing you can do.
I once worked for a pager store.
Yeah.
And the guy's computer system went down and we lost half of our subscribers.
Yep.
Went out of business about 2 months later.
2 months later. Well,
so I use on his LastPass.
I use LastPass, but I don't use a multi-factor. Does that mean I'm smarter?
Yeah, I guess you are because I don't
Lazy works at this
Actually,
point.
you know what? I use LastPass too, and I do not use multi-factor either. So you know what? I think we're
works.
both in a situation we don't have to
How
worry
is it
about.
that you guys are always talking about multi-factor authentication and you're not using
Well,
it?
because
What
I don't
the hell
trust.
is
I
that
don't
about?
trust a company to not screw me like this. I mean, this.
Thank you.
Is
I'm
essentially
the same way. I
Yeah.
only keep my work passwords in there. None of my personal
Yep.
stuff's in LastPass.
I get you.
Okay,
So the force resync in the multi-factor authentication is now preventing many users from logging into LastPass that won't recognize the system. Essentially, you have to go to Twitter right now if you want to get support, and you have to tweet them #LastPass if you're a user that has multi-factor authentication problems. What a mess! Essentially, LastPass says that they hope to fix this soon and to continue to use Twitter as your solution to contact them by hashtagging them if you're unable to log into your account.
Yeah, tweet
All right,
LastPass when Elon Musk is in.
So
the
you need
stage
to, if you are a user of LastPass, which I did last night, you need to export all of your passwords into an Excel file with an encryption item so that no one hacks them, because LastPass is probably going to go out of business. I would suggest you move to a new password manager. My suggestion is using Dashlane as the alternative for that. They are a nice alternative. It's a free process is available. I would be
Do
getting
they
my
use
stuff.
multi-factor authentication?
They do too. Yeah.
Do
they
you use the multi-factor authentication?
No,
okay.
no, I do
Don't
not.
use it.
Well, no, we tell people to use it all the time. I just don't use it
Make
for
up
my
your
past.
mind.
I just don't use it for my past. You know what? My Nathan Nugget is going to talk to you about the best way to store your passwords.
We're not going to get there.
Yes, we will.
This is Mike's mesmerizing moment, presented by Story Coffee. Visit storycoffee.com.
Mike, let's talk about the sense of security. How well do you feel protected with your current password management system?
You know, after today's show, I don't.
You don't?
No.
Well, what do you use? I mean, how do you manage that? This is your mesmerizing moment. Tell us how you do that. How do you feel secure?
I just do what I do.
Okay, so do you have like a secret into your system? What you have?
Oh, you know, I use pen and paper.
Okay.
I keep my passwords on pen and paper.
Okay.
Like old school stuff.
Okay.
And nobody's ever going to hack that.
That is correct. That may be a part of the Nathan Nugget.
It doesn't really matter because, you know, everybody gets hacked nowadays, so they probably have my
pen and paper.
When I type it in the keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have some way of scraping that off the internet somewhere, somehow. So
hopefully you haven't downloaded any video games lately that were.
I know I don't download video games.
Okay.
That
helps you a bit.
I just don't like it.
You just don't
no,
like it?
sir, I don't like it.
All right. So does your company have a special password protection software that they expect you to use?
Oh yeah, we have a VPN.
Okay.
I have a VPN, so I use a VPN.
Okay.
And we have a password protected system on there. So
Okay.
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
So you
super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
There you go. All right, let's move now to our Nathan Nugget.
This is your Nugget of the Week.
All right, so Mikey kind of stole some of my information.
Did I steal your thunder?
Yeah, you did a little bit, but that's okay. I appreciate that.
Well, you were talking about not using multi-factor authentication for this. So
let me just tell you,
always talking about
best way to do your password management. It is going to sound so old school. You know what it is? It's a notebook that you write down your login username and your information. Because let me just tell you,
yeah, it's funny how all that stuff
comes
is really
back to
important now.
Now,
yeah.
if you're at a business association and you're working in a company, you don't want to have a notebook inside your computer that just has all this information because someone can come in and steal your notebook. But if you're at home, let me just tell you, home crimes, when people come on in and steal stuff in home crimes, they steal computers, they steal televisions. They do not steal a notebook that has handwritten information in there. If you have information, you have a couple pages of doodle information, maybe your scratch pad to draw something type of deal.
My mesmerizing moment, because that's more. There's more psychology behind that than.
Well, how you back it up is real simple. Unless you have a fire, you're taken care of. You make a copy of that, put it in your safe in your house, and you're good taken care of. I know my specific wife is password secure because she writes everything down on a green notebook.
Yeah, there you go.
So you can come in our house and steal the green notebook, and then you're good to go.
I got to tell.
There you go.
There you go. Tell everybody where it is.
Best select to find
Where
that green
is it?
notebook. All right. We're going to move to our pick of the day here. Mark, what are we tasting again?
Well, before that, when we go to your party, I'm going to be looking for that green notebook.
Okay, the green notebook is hidden.
But what we're tasting today is Willet Pot Still Reserve Bourbon.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Absolutely. Fantastic. This is the best. You know what, Mike? We're almost out of time here. We want to thank our listeners for joining the program. Listeners, we want to hear from you. We have to head out to our 4th of July party, so you be safe. Keep your fingers. We're going to see you guys next week.
Where's the hat?
Remember,
Need the
the
hat.
science of tomorrow starts with the technology of today.
Bye-bye.
Woohoo!
Thanks for joining us on TechTime Radio. We hope that you had a chance to have that moment today in technology. The fun doesn't stop there. We recommend that you go to techtimeradio.com and join our fan list for the most important aspect of staying connected and winning some really great monthly prizes. We also have a few other ways to stay connected, including subscribing to our podcast on any podcast service, from Apple to Google and everything in between. We're also on YouTube, so check us out on youtube.com/techtimeradio, all one word. We hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did making it for you. From all of us at TechTime Radio, remember, Mumm's the word. Have a safe and fantastic week. Fantastic week. Fantastic week. Fantastic.